What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka New York Prepper. It is Monday, December 13th, 2021, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. This is a World War III alert. So, the capital city of Ukraine is going to be testing their bomb sirens over the next few weeks, and they're getting their bomb shelters ready. And that's the city of Kiev. For those of you guys who are not familiar with Eastern Europe, Kiev is the capital city of Ukraine. And this is breaking news. This was just reported today. This is coming from a Ukrainian news agency called Liga. And I want to just read to you what they're saying here. So, in Kiev, bomb shelters are being checked and exercises with sirens will be conducted amid information about a possible full-scale Russian invasion. This was announced by the deputy head of the Kiev City-State Administration, Andriy Krishenko. The representative of the Kiev City-State Administration noted that in the event of an attack by an aggressor, the Kievites will be notified of this with the help of sirens, since this method will be available even without light and without cellular communication, that is, in critical conditions. We are testing these systems all the time, but without sound. We plan to conduct exercises. Starting next week, we will start an information campaign so that people are not afraid when they hear them. And in a couple of weeks, we will turn on sirens and conduct exercises so that people do not panic what to do, said Krishenko. He also spoke about the situation with the Kiev bomb shelters. These are mainly old structures of the Soviet era, which were often at some large enterprises. There is infrastructure there. They are well fortified and designed for a large number of people. Some of them have already been renovated, but many of these bomb shelters are privately owned. They want to transfer part of the premises to the city, but first they also need to be put in order. There are also more than 4,000 dual-purpose objects, basements, underground parking lots, basement shops. In case of an alarm, according to Krishenko, these objects are ready to receive people. And it also says here that you can go to the State Emergency Situation Service website for the city of Kiev, and it has a map showing where these dual-purpose objects are. And they call them dual-purpose because they're on one side, they're normal, let's say, commercial buildings, underground parking garages, basement shops, any kind of basement of a building. But then on the other side, they could be used as an improvised bomb shelter or fallout shelter. So they have over 4,000 of these suitable improvised shelters, bomb shelters that they've marked on a map. And if you're a resident of Ukraine in Kiev, you can go to their website and you can check the map and see where these improvised dual-purpose objects are that could be used as a bomb shelter. But guys, this is pretty significant, okay, for a capital city of a country to test their air raid sirens. I mean, that's just crazy. Could you imagine if Washington, D.C. was testing bomb sirens for several weeks? I mean, that's just crazy. Countries don't normally do that unless they really feel threatened. So they're first going to send out an information campaign so people don't panic. And then they're actually going to turn the sirens on. And, so this way people know what it sounds like and they can practice, getting ready to take cover, go underground. That's pretty insane, guys. And they also have old Soviet era structures and old bomb shelters because Kiev was a very important city during the USSR. And the Soviet Union actually stored nuclear weapons in Ukraine, but they also built a lot of bomb shelters underneath Kiev. And so these bomb shelters are still there, but they're in private ownership. So the city of Kiev is trying to see if they can take back ownership of these bomb shelters and then clean them up and try to, renovate them so they can take people in. But in the meantime, they have these improvised shelters that they posted on on a map. I mean, this is just crazy, guys. Could you imagine, the nearest big city where you live, whatever city in your state? Imagine if they started, blasting bomb sirens, doing drills and readying bomb shelters. I mean, that's just crazy, guys. A city doesn't normally do that, okay, and alarm their people like that unless there's truly a need for it, okay, because it has some economic consequences when you start blaring sirens out. People tend to panic and they don't know what's going on. So the fact that they're doing this to me is a red flag. And you have to remember, guys, that the information that we have is just the tip of the iceberg. We see a couple of satellite photos of some Russian tanks building up somewhere, or we see a couple of clips on Twitter that somebody filmed some tanks on a train. That's just like 0.5% of the intelligence that's out there. And I'm sure that NATO and the West, the United States, has been giving Ukraine a lot of intelligence. I've been posting videos on all the reconnaissance flights that have been going on over Ukraine. And just yesterday, I talked about in my live stream the first ever U.S. Air Force manned reconnaissance flight over Ukraine. So, but they've been flying drones over Ukraine for months now, ever since the springtime when Putin moved like 250,000 troops in a snap drill. So they have a lot of intelligence from all these reconnaissance planes, these drones. They're picking up radio traffic from Russian military communications. They're intercepting Russian military communications with those planes that they have. They can eavesdrop on radio communications. They can gather all kinds of information with these reconnaissance planes. They have satellites. They have thermal imagery. They can take pictures all the way from space in thermal, and they can see heat signatures. There's so many things that we don't have access to that the Ukraine government probably has access to, because NATO is probably feeding them all this information and intelligence. So they're getting ready for something big, guys. So I wanted to just warn you guys and let you know to get yourselves ready, because even if this thing doesn't go nuclear and it just stays a regional war, it's going to have far-reaching consequences. It's going to affect the global economy. It's not going to be good. And if this part of the world goes into war, it could easily escalate. It's really uncharted territory. It could easily escalate, so get yourself prepared. I've done several videos on nuclear war survival. It's one of my passions. When it comes to prepping and survival, nuclear war survival is probably one of my most favorite topics to study and discuss. I've made like 15 videos on it. I think that our current generation is not prepared to survive even a limited nuclear strike, versus like 50 years ago during the Cold War. People had shelters, people had food and water, people knew what to do when nukes would come in. Our generation has no clue about surviving nuclear war. And I know a lot of you guys are going to say, well, nuclear war is not survivable. And, why would I want to survive that? Well, the reason why is, number one, you don't have a choice. If you just sit there and die, that's basically the same thing as suicide. You're just giving up. Suicide is definitely something that God doesn't like. That's for sure. So, you have to try and survive. But also, nuclear war might not play out the way that you think. It might not be an entire nuclear holocaust where, thousands of missiles are launched at each other. It might just be a limited nuclear strike where Russia sends a couple of dozen nukes at us, we send a couple dozen back, and then we call it quits. We don't go to the point where we're launching, high yield warheads with 50 megatons, hundreds of them at each other. It might not work out that way, and most likely will not, actually, because Russia doesn't want a nuclear winter, just like we don't want a nuclear winter, okay? So it might be just a limited exchange where they send over, let's say, 50 or 100 nukes and they're lower yield, and they target, let's say, our nuclear triad, which I've talked about in my videos, which is most likely what would happen if we were to get hit with nukes. And most likely the nukes would come from Russia. They would not come from China or North Korea, because China and North Korea do not have the capabilities. They have very small nuclear arsenals. China, believe it or not, only has a few hundred nuclear warheads. That's why they're so close with Russia right now, because they need Russia to protect them. They need Russia for the nuclear deterrent. So, but down the road, of course, China will be a threat in the nuclear domain once they build up their arsenal. But China does not have a huge nuclear arsenal. Russia has the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world. They have more nuclear weapons than we do. And if there was a war, they would target our nuclear triad and try to decapitate our nuclear arsenal and eliminate it, so we can't strike back at them, and basically eliminate our nuclear deterrent. And then that would allow them to do whatever they want. If they want to conquer Eastern Europe, if China wants to conquer Southeast Asia, the first thing they have to do is neutralize our military and neutralize our nuclear arsenal. That's the most important thing. And I've talked about that in a lot of my videos. I'll leave a link up above if you want to check out my nuclear war survival playlist. But hopefully it doesn't come to that level, but it's always a possibility. So just wanted to share this bit of information with you guys. So the city of Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, will be testing their bomb sirens over the next few weeks. They're actually going to be turning the sound on, and they're going to let people know that they're doing this so people don't freak out. I think this is a big, red flag in my opinion. I mean, this is just absolutely insane. They're getting their bomb shelters ready. This is a serious situation, guys. So I'm going to stay on top of it for you and keep you updated. Also, we had Vladimir Putin today speak with Prime Minister Boris Johnson from Britain. They had a phone call today, and Putin doubled down on his belief that NATO was threatening Russia. So I'm going to read to you guys what the Kremlin said about the phone call with Boris Johnson. So Vladimir Putin gave a detailed outline of his principal evaluation of the current situation around Ukraine. It was underlined that all this is happening against the background of active military expansion on the territory of Ukraine by NATO countries, creating a direct threat to the security of Russia. So Kremlin doubling down on their belief that NATO is trying to attack them. So Putin doubled down on that. Now, Boris Johnson warned Putin that any destabilizing action against Ukraine would be a strategic mistake with significant consequences. Boris Johnson emphasized the UK's commitment to Ukraine's territorial integrity and sovereignty, and warned that any destabilizing action would be a strategic mistake that would have significant consequences. So, guys, both sides are sticking to their guns. This is a very serious situation. But that's all I got for now. Check out my nuclear war survival playlist. Check out my breaking news. I'll keep you guys updated. Check back the last few videos I uploaded. There's a lot of information there on what's been going on in Ukraine. So I'll stay on top of it, though. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.